We have all been there. That moment of frustration when you see someone blatantly break the rules and they seem to get away with it. It's a feeling of imbalance, a small tear in the fabric of a world that's supposed to make sense. But there is a unique and quiet satisfaction in witnessing the universe balance its own scales. Those rare moments when an egregious act is met with an immediate and undeniable consequence. Today, from the AI Blotter archives, we're opening 3 case files that capture that exact moment. We'll start with one of my own. It's a scene most of us know by heart. The mundane, everyday pause of a red light on an ordinary afternoon. A moment of quiet suspension in the middle of a busy day, set by laws and regulations. But every now and then, those rules are broken. In this case, it was an impatient driver, someone who had decided the shared rules of the road, the basic principles of order, no longer applied to them. And just like that, they were on the other side, a blur of motion through the intersection, completely ignoring a light that couldn't have been more red. It's a small act of chaos, but it's jarring. It leaves you with that familiar, frustrating thought. You look around and wonder, where are the police when you actually need them? Knowing the answer before you even think it, nowhere. But on this particular day, the answer was different. It didn't come from the front, but as a sudden flash of color in my mirror. A patrol unit, previously hidden in the line of patient traffic, came to life. It glided past, its siren a sudden, clear answer to my presumed rhetorical question. And far down the road, you could see the conclusion to this tiny, seconds-long drama. The traffic stop. One subject being reminded of the rules. I'll admit, it brought a smile to my face. A small moment of cosmic balance restored. A simple traffic violation with a satisfying result. But karma doesn't always need a police officer to deliver its verdict. Sometimes, a person's contempt for what is right can be their own downfall. Which brings us to our next case file. What is it about a small act of disrespect that feels so significant? A single piece of trash casually tossed on the ground, an arrogant remark made without care. These things can ruin a perfectly pleasant day. In fact, the AI Blotter is filled with reports of such moments. This report was filed by a witness who experienced disregard firsthand. It began, as these things often do, with a single piece of litter. Our witness described the initial act as deceptively simple. A woman, walking just ahead of them, discarded a piece of trash onto the pavement. It wasn't an accident. It was an action of clear, casual intent. But this is where the story shifts. A passing motorist, seeing the transgression, calls out, "Hey, that's littering!" It's a small attempt to restore order. But the woman's reply was disarming in its simplicity. Without breaking her stride, she just said, "I know." Just 2 words, "I know." It wasn't a denial. It certainly wasn't an apology. It was a declaration that the rules were understood and were being willfully ignored. Most stories would be over at this point. The woman would continue on defiantly while the driver pulls away, most likely shaking his head. The balance had been tipped, and there was no correction. But the universe, it seems, had a different ending planned for this particular case. As the woman proudly carried herself forward, a can of soda slipped from her grasp. It didn't just land with a thud or spill on the ground. It detonated on the hot pavement like a small, carbonated grenade, erupting in a sticky shower all over her shoes and clothes. Though she continued on her way, leaving behind improperly discarded litter, sometimes the scales balance themselves, such as an uncomfortable walk to where she was heading. Karma can deliver irrevocable replies when needed, but for our final report, we return to the professionals. Let's open the next file. Not every tale begins with perfect weather. Our final witness's recount opens with heavy rains, the kind of relentless, sheet-like downpour that turns a simple drive home into a slow, frustrating crawl. Traffic was at a standstill, a sea of red taillights reflected on wet asphalt, bringing small amounts of light into an otherwise dreary night. Most drivers accept this reality with a shared, quiet resignation. But there's always one who believes the rules of patience don't apply. Enter in the offender, a Mustang piloted by one who doesn't buy stock in following the rules. That contempt was put on full display as the Mustang suddenly and deliberately accelerated past the line of resigned drivers and straight through the red light. As we have discussed, this is often where the scales are tipped unfairly. Everyone, including the driver, know what has happened and expects to be unsatisfied with the results, unless you're the driver. But this is where karma once again intervenes, because immediately, a patrol car's emergency lights suddenly flash to life, and the trailing officer initiates a traffic stop. Upon pulling over, the patrolman issues a directive over his loudspeaker. "Get out of the vehicle and put your hands on the roof of the car." Of course, the driver complies, stepping out into the relentless, pouring rain. And then, nothing. For what must have felt like an eternity to the driver, there was only the sound of rain. No questions, no commands, just a cold, wet, and deeply uncomfortable and embarrassing silence. A deliberate lesson in patience. The expected procedure here is simple. The officer approaches, asks for license and registration, and a citation is issued. The scales of justice are balanced. But this was not a typical situation. This was a file from the AI Blotter. Our officer decided against a written warning and opted instead for a verbal one. After a long, cold, and deeply uncomfortable silence, the patrol car's loudspeaker once again crackled to life. "Next time you run a red light during a storm, don't do it right in front of a cop, dumbass." The officer offered no further instruction. He simply drove away, leaving one subject to contemplate his choices. 3 infractions. 3 very different moments of expedited justice. They're a reminder that while the world may often feel unbalanced, sometimes the scales are evened out right before our very eyes. The archives are full of strange and bizarre cases. To make sure you don't miss the next investigation, make sure to subscribe to RandewReads. After all, the stories you find in the AI Blotter are verified. Probably.